hello. Happy Monday, everybody. Welcome to Fly Nubian Money, where we help you master your mindset and maximize your money. My name is Tiara Williams. I'm also known as Miss Black Hollywood or Karma J. It just really depends on the day. So today we are talking about the major, absolute major. I don't know where my notes went, but great. They just disappeared. Okay. Today we are talking about the major shift that's happening in the alcohol industry. It's been reported that they have lost up to $830 billion in the last 4 years. That's $830 billion in the last 4 years because millennials and Gen X, Z, A, A, B, C, D. Marlo, help me out. Gen X, Z.
Gen Z,
Help.
Gen
It,
Z, and Gen Y or millennials. Yes.
okay. All right. Gen what, so the younger generations are drinking less, and so we want to find out today why that is that because they just don't feel like it? Is it a moral thing? Is it because there's something wrong with the industry? Let's start out there. Well, I can't have this conversation by myself. Of course, I have a wonderful group of panelists here with me. They are amazing and I love them all very, very, very much. I want to start with Marlo Lacen. She is a TV and film producer. My good girlfriend, Joe Corley. He is our resident therapist today and just a really good human being. All right. Deborah E. Williams, who is Deborah never said well she's in actually, I'm recruiting Deborah to just work in entertainment with me, but she started in the chat, but now she is on the show. She is how would you like to be introduced, Deborah? You're an avid supporter. You are yeah, yeah, I love
Support,
it. All
supporter.
right. And finally, Renee Williams. Renee, I do
Right.
not have it in front of me. I don't have
I
that.
can I can
Do it.
introduce myself. Yes.
Tell me.
Yes, a strategist, patient advocate, clinical advocate for patients. So yeah, strategist on that.
Love it. So we'll call Renee a strategist today.
Strategist.
A strategist. There we go. I love that. Welcome, panelists. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Happy Monday. Did everybody have a good weekend? Everybody is good? Everybody's good? Thumbs up? All right, great. All right, let's get into it. So I guess I want to know, let's start with our first round robin. Why? Why do you all think that there's been a decline? And I'll start with you, Joe. Why do you think that there's been a decline in the alcohol industry? Do you think it's moral? Do you think people just aren't feeling it these days? What do you think?
I think that alcohol is has functioned as a coping tool more than just a party tool. And I think people need to be aware of that when kids start drinking young, they're just trying to cope. And I feel like although there are kids out here having problems meeting their emotional needs, more of them are doing what they want to do
Mm.
and living the life they want to live. So I think that there's just not as much of a need for that kind of coping strategy as there once was.
Hmm. All right. Deborah, what do you think? Why are people drinking less?
I don't think popping bottles is as popular as it used to be in the club. That used to
Mm.
be like a thrill to do for the younger generation. You get a section at the club, you pop your bottles. But when they saw the inflation prices of to pop those bottles, they said, you know what? We can pregame at home. We ain't gotta do all of this. We can stay
Mm.
home, have a good time, don't have to worry about DUIs and all the other things that come along with drinking and being outside. So, yeah.
Mm. Okay. All right. Marlo, what do you think? What do you think is the reason why?
I think marketing. I can speak for myself as a member of Gen X. Alcohol was everywhere. If it was a TV show and they were celebrating, if they were angry, if they needed to de stress, alcohol was ever present in pop culture. And I
Mm-hmm.
think it just isn't anymore because there are so many options and everybody could do stuff differently. But I will say for our generation or my generation, alcohol was everywhere. And I think that pop culture spilled into real life. And so people were picking it up. Those were the cues that we were given. So I think marketing is different. And I think that the young people are different, like Joe said, and they're just experiencing things differently. And if you're hungover, it makes your travel trip to Belize not so much fun if you lose a day and a half because you're recuperating. So I think it's a multi-factor.
Renee, what do you think? Why are people changing their tune?
It's a combination, I believe. Basically, for like instantly my son, he's like, Mom, I can't go to the club because I have to stack up my money to get an apartment. It's expensive out there. What an apartment was in the 80s is, twice or three times as much today. So, he's making those decisions about, should I stay home or should I go to the club and drink? And he's like, I think I'll just stay home and we'll just, have a good time here. And then also I see more health influencers on social media than I see things about alcoholism and things like that. So it's the influences of the social media is really also driving everyone thinking about more. And I see myself also saying, I want more experiences. And you can't have experiences hungover.
Yeah, yeah. You know, I agree with what you all are saying, and I love that everybody had a different perspective on why this is. I remember myself, me growing up. Alcoholism really ran in my family. So on any given day, as a kid, I could be walking in, and I know somebody, one of my uncles gonna come in drunk and be tripping or laid out on the floor. I mean, it was when you think about it, there was a lot of trauma happening, and like what you said, Joe, like people were coping with all kinds of things, but it was so normal. It was so normalized. And I'm now as a kid, I don't know. I think that smoking was obviously also normal, and I think we do that less as well. But smoking was normalized, drinking was normalized. It was more than just a social thing. It almost, I think there was at some point they were like, yeah, smoking is good for you, right? So I wonder, for you, first of all, who's a Gen what? Let's come off the mute really quick and just, I'm a millennial, so I'm a Gen.
Why?
Thank you. Okay. All right, Marlo, you are
Gen
Gen
X.
Gen X. Renee, you are Gen.
X.
Okay. Joe, you are Gen.
No idea.
Uh,
1980. Born in 1980. What am I?
He is like a millennial slash Xer because it depends on the year. They say either 80 or 81, but welcome to Gen X because you're on the back end of us.
okay, I'm a millennial. All right. Deborah, what about you?
I'm definitely Gen X.
Okay. And so I want to know what your experiences were like. I want to know, first of all, I want to know what your experiences with alcohol like growing up. Like were you or do you drink or are you enjoy, like I just want to get a sense of who I'm talking to or who's in the room. I'll start with you, Marlo. How did liquor affect your life growing up? Like, or did you
Um,
drink it?
I feel like my parents always like kind of drink beer and they would drink liquor special occasions, right? Anniversaries, Christmas. So we would have a bottle of gin would last 2 years in our house because that's how infrequently they drank.
Mm,
As I got older, it was part of the lifestyle, right? It was a part of the lifestyle that the rappers were selling to us and were promoting. So yeah, I was passing the Cavassier and all of that other stuff. But now, as it stands, I drink far less. Maybe special occasions, right? I don't. I'm a very infrequent drinker now, and not a frequent party person either. So that
mm.
they kind of go hand in hand, I guess.
Yeah, it's so funny that people are really surprised that I don't drink. And it's like you lived in New Orleans and you don't drink alcohol? Like they can't believe it. Renee, what about you? What how were you shaped? How has liquor shaped your life?
It shaped my life with me saying that I won't be a drinker and I won't do drugs because it was heavily in my family, with the drugs. And I think, the 80s, the rampant 80s, say no to drugs, Nancy Reagan, whatever, as they were pouring it into the community, that really affected my family. And it did a lot of damage with they couldn't pick up or get out of it. And led to a lot of homelessness and just really just ravaged through the community. So the first thing I said to myself is that I will not do that, because I saw how it really affected my parents and their siblings and whatnot. So yeah, it's serious.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I can relate to that. Joe, what about you? How has it shaped you?
Well, much like seems like everybody's had that sort of a kind of impact. I watched a man get drunk quite often and physically abuse my mother. So I made the vow to never drink. And I just told my age a second ago. I was born in 1980, so I'm 45, and I have never had a drink in my life. And Yeah, I, I don't know. I thought about trying some wine to wind down at the end of the day, but I don't know how that would go.
Mm,
So, but it hasn't. I moved out of my life early, and it hasn't been a part of my life for a very long time.
okay. All right. What about you, Deborah?
So alcohol has been a part of my life. My dad, he ran a bar. My uncle had nightclubs here in Yonkers, New York. And I could remember, unfortunately, at the age of, was before I was 10 years old, that, I was drinking. And I would sneak, and they would have those big lavish parties because it was sexy to drink back in the 70s. It was sexy to drink, it was sexy to smoke, and it just looked like all the beautiful people were just having they had the cocktails in their hand and they was just laughing. It just looked so fun, and I admired them because there really wasn't that many children my age. So I ended up hanging out a lot with my aunt, my grandmother, my mother. So, the kid in the corner, and so I can remember one time, sipping out of everybody's cup. And I remember being drunk. And I remember my mom trying to get me in the bed before my dad closed the bar and came home and found out that I had been drinking, or it was going to be a problem. And I could vividly remember that. And then fast forward, drinking was a vice for me. And so by the age of 25, it was the end. No more drinking for me. So, yeah.
Okay. And also, I just think Deborah looks 25, so there's that. There's that.
Thank you.
At
Thank
least
you.
you
Thank
preserve
God.
that. You preserve that thing. So, okay. Now, before let's go to our first video. Um, but I love. First of all, I want to thank you all for your transparency. I'm asking the chat for you. How did alcohol shape your life? Like, what did you grow up kind of thinking? Did you drink young? Do you still drink now? How did it affect you? I want to know. All right, let's go to our first video, y'all.
Over the past 4 years, there's an article putting out about how the alcohol industry has taken a $800 billion loss in profit. And the reason why is that going out right now, as far as the culture and living life, actually sucks if you're really young. I am from the era where I remember when we danced and had fun, and I understand that. And remember, we didn't have a lot of money. We pre-gamed and bought liquor together and drunk at each other's houses. If you a young guy now and you want to go out on a weekend, you got to pay to park. You got to pay to get in, and you got to pay to drink. God damn. I understand why they don't want to do that, man. I really do. The gouging of people trying to get rich off every single function has hurt them. There has been a real life cultural reset in real time, and most of these large companies do not see. I can already see it among the young generation, man. When you hear it and talk to them, the young guys are just not motivated by it. And what that means is that innovation must occur. But these numbers ain't going nowhere, y'all. People have to afford the basic amenities, not entertainment, not luxury, not lifestyle. It's going to be a change very big in our lifetime. And I think we just got to talk about it, ready to see it. What's your thoughts on it?
Hmm. There's gonna be a big change. What do you guys think about that, Marlo? I'll start with you. There's gonna be a big change coming, and it's not gonna look like it once looked. What do you think about what he said?
I think it will, and I think it's going to take innovation. I've seen a few reports that say that young people aren't even thinking about clubbing. They're more into day parties, right? So they want to go in the daytime and have their fun and then have a regular relax, right? So they're even trying to get in touch with their circadian rhythm, also because there, as Renee mentioned, there are more wellness influencers, right? So like me saying in the 80s, alcohol was everywhere. In the 90s, alcohol was everywhere. It was on every billboard. It was in every music video. It was every single where you turn. TV shows, it didn't matter if it was a sitcom or a drama, there was drinking. They even made martinis on the morning news. So alcohol was thought to be this social, pleasurable thing. That's how it was promoted. And now they're just going to have to figure out what this younger crowd likes and innovate that way. You know, how do you have fun without alcohol or with the alcohol content that's lower? Because a lot of millennials apparently like wine coolers and buzz balls and stuff that has a lower alcohol content than hard liquor. So it will be interesting to watch and see who emerges as the kind of social purveyor of lifestyle for these younger generations.
What about I love that word, innovation. I wasn't even thinking about it like that. Renee, when I think of innovation, I always think of like business or like a new product or whatever. Like I'm not thinking like a new, literally like this type of transition. What do you think about that?
The new innovation is marijuana.
Ah.
Now that you can, I know that the younger generation, you know, you have your edibles, you can drink it, you can do, so it's a whole different, now that the alcohol has gone down, the marijuana business is booming, and they see no end of it. So definitely we have our wellness, and definitely those things are being taken into account, and we're saving our money. But then, you know, I'm sure it's going to be another conversation another day, is about the marijuana and how that is affecting our younger generation as well. And then, you know, and they're looking at it as a natural form, right? It comes from the ground. That's how it's being pivoted and marketed, that is natural. And so when they're having anxiety or any issues like that, smoke a joint, relax.
That's good. You know, that just made me think about hip hop now, right? Because like in the 90s, like it was about popping bottles and just having a good time and dancing in the club. And then something happened where I think it was residual from the 90s, but like the openness that the kids have with like Percocets and Molly's and all of the things, they just be so open. Like I popped a Molly, I'm sweating. Woo! You know, like it just popping and doing things. So Joe, I want to know, I love what Renee said, right? There's been this evolution in how the kids are enjoying themselves. So have they replaced one pleasure with another? It's not really about like, people aren't drinking as much. Now they're just going to other things to cope. What do you think about that?
I think Renee is exactly right. And I do feel like that people are finding better coping strategies in alcohol, and that are less costly. And I don't mean like financially costly. I mean physically costly, emotionally costly. Alcohol takes a physical and emotional toll on you that weed doesn't take. And people are, I think, I wasn't even thinking about that, but after she said it, yeah, that makes perfect sense. Yeah, that they're turning to that. And also, I just happened to had two clients this weekend, both single, and they spent a good amount of time talking to me about the dating game that they're in and how it's so online,
Mm-hmm.
and how people are talking to each other for weeks before they even, like, what I'm saying, get to know each other in person. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that has something to do with it too. You know what I mean? I really feel like, people, when we was going out to the club, you actually you had that pen, and you had them like 5, 6 strips of paper. You know what I mean? Just you had to get them numbers. You know what I mean? But that is not occurring anymore. People ain't. You had to go out and meet people. But
Mm-hmm.
now, I don't know why anybody's going to the club. What are you doing that for? You can just go online and swipe away. That's just my thoughts.
Ah, ah, ah. Um, as somebody that is on a dating app, I just don't. I think getting outside is the way. I think like that. But you're absolutely right, Joe. I'm like, it's wild out here. We'll talk about it on another day. Deborah, what do you think? What do you think?
Uh, yes, definitely. The marijuana. Oh, it's horrible. It's nothing like the old school, really grown from the ground marijuana. Like, this marijuana is definitely government driven. It doesn't even smell the same. And I don't think it has it has an adverse effect. It's not like old school marijuana. I definitely have tried that back in the day. I don't know what this new stuff is about. I ain't trying it. But if you got to constantly smoke them like cigarettes, it's not doing it. Something's wrong with it, you know? And so, yeah, they're switching to vaping, they're switching to marijuana, and also fentanyl is on the rise too. I've taken like 2 courses now on how to revive someone who has a fentanyl overdose, because you don't know what the doses are that you're taking, and it could happen so quickly. So working in the public at the library and here even at my church, we've trained people because you just never know who's taking it. And fentanyl has so many different faces now. So yeah, they're picking up other vices.
Yeah, yeah. Let's I'm interested in knowing how you all think that this how alcohol has, I mean, I know the answer to this, but I really want to hear from your mouths. In what way, in one specific way, that you think that alcohol has really ruined the Black community? And I'll start with you, Marlo. Like, what's one way that you think that it's really caused a demise to our community?
Health disparities. I think first and foremost, I mean, it's a myriad, right? But health disparities, because we're not taught, people aren't taught how dangerous alcohol is in terms of your internal organs, and like how, what happens to your body as you are consuming like excessive amounts of alcohol. So I think the health disparities that alcohol brings, including the generational addiction, right? Because alcohol is addictive and addiction is in your DNA. So I think that even though, you know, I look back, there are alcoholics in older generations, but the next generation, there was a lot of crack addicts, right? So they weren't going to alcohol, but they still had that vice coding in them to look for escape in something. And so I think that if I were to rank them, I would say health first and foremost, and then everything else is a byproduct of the health, because it also causes delusion and mental health issues, right? So overall, alcohol ravished our bodies, and then that poured out into the community in other ways.
So since I love what you just said, so I'm gonna go to Joe with, because you said something about mental health and all of the things. So I'm interested in knowing what's one way you think that alcohol has ruined the Black community, Joe.
Well, you know that Black folks don't rush to the therapy office like they, you know, so we look for any acceptable tool to cope with our problems. And alcohol has been one of the most socially accepted ways for us to cope. Oh man, I got problems. I'm finna go get, you know, I'm finna go get turned. Instead of, you know, I'm finna go into this therapy room and deal with my anxiety. It's happening now. There's a turn, I think, approaching and coming, but in the past it wasn't a thing. It wasn't a thing. It's a thing we ran from. So where do we go? We go to the bottle, we go to the drugs. But you know, some people don't want to, you know, be viewed as a crackhead, so they just keep themselves in that bottle. It's accessible, it's legal, it's socially acceptable. You know, and it was, you know, you can't talk about drinking in the Black community without talking about survival. It was just a survival tool. So I think that's just one way. I mean, I could think of 100 different ways, but I know that's one way for sure.
Yeah. Deborah, what do you think? What's one way that you think it's ruined?
We are the highest community, the Black community is the highest on the list to receive kidneys. And it has to do with alcoholism. I have friends that are not even 50 years old, and they were heavy brown liquor drinkers, and they just wouldn't stop. And one is waiting to receive a kidney. He's on dialysis. The other one was on dialysis. He received a kidney. And in our community, the kidney, the livers, and the pancreas are the biggest organ transplants right now. We're the highest number receiving them right now. Dialysis centers are predominantly in Black neighborhoods. It's terrible.
I see that. Wow. I hadn't thought about that. I hadn't considered that. Renee, what do you say?
I would have to just agree with Deborah and Joe. Those are the two, just that it affect our community in those kind of ways. And it's just they've normalized. It seemed like we normalized alcohol as it was very socially accepted. But what, for me, an understanding is that when you drink, they say it's truth serum, right? So I think they also use that when they drink. A lot of the things that have been buried inside of them comes out, and it just the effect that they have done on the children that the alcohol has happened. Like, I just know people have low self-esteem. They come up, they have to, we're having like a lot of things about loving ourselves now, and taking time out to go to maybe retreat centers or spas or whatever you need to just kind of get from that toxic environment that you was raised from. Because in addition to the alcohol, your parents or your aunt or your uncle, they have said, for me, I know that I have seen is they say some things that you can't recover from that. It takes a long time to recover when they embed that information in you and then expect you to operate in the community and be functional. Yeah.
Yeah. I want to add to that. I do think we have lost decades of like, I don't know if to call it productivity, but I feel like Black people, if nothing else, even with everything that was happening against us, we were a productive people. Even with everything that we had to deal with, we were together and we were unified. We could build things. As we know, America has done its big one to try to, destroy everything that we built. And I didn't want to take it in this type of direction, but I do think, because I don't want to point at the government and all the things, but you cannot talk about the Black community without talking about the things that have been and the way that we have been targeted. But I'll just say this: the way we've been able to kind of fall victim, and I know it's not, white supremacy is not our fault, but it's like somebody said earlier, them dumping drugs and alcohol into our communities, and unfortunately we lost productivity. We developed all types of toxic habits and all the things, and we're really trying to get a leg up and get our communities back. And I was listening to Deborah. If it's okay if I can talk about you for a second. So Deborah was telling me last week, and I was so interested about like her family tree, and like, the way like her family, how the Williams family has an estate, and how like they take the kids back to where her is it great, it's three greats, great grandma, great grandma was bought as a slave. And then they have like, they have a board, and there's just, I feel like we was doing that, right? Like, just as a community, I think we were operating maybe in this way, where it was like we knew we had to organize and kind of be there as a front. And I think that's what alcohol did to our families. It just kind of knocked out like the unity. Just even being able to be forward thinking and like plan. I mean, you can if you're, high or doped up on drugs and alcohol, so you can't really be productive. So those are my thoughts, but let's go to our next video. I like this conversation. It's a little heavy today, but it's good. I feel like it's a good conversation to have. So we'll be right back.
U.S. alcohol consumption is down, reporting that only 54% of adults even reported in 2025 of drinking alcohol. So that means that 46% of us are choosing to opt out completely or choose alternative. It's important to note that this is why the alcohol industry was so against herbal drinks entering into their market space. And this is super important because between 18 and 34, we're choosing not to drink. Most younger generations citing it as unhealthy costly. And then there's also those generational curses we are breaking. So even if you decide not to do a dry January, go ahead and reduce that alcohol consumption, because one, it's not healthy for you, and when has any of your problems ever been solved by having a drink? Let's get sober in 2026. There's plenty of other things that you can do that are healthy and will keep you living long and thriving.
What do you guys think of that? The young people are just a little different too. I mean, I just think they're just different in the way they think, in the way they approach things. And sometimes we say it's a bad thing because they're like, I know my worth. I'm not about to do this. Y'all ain't about to just be treating me any kind of way, but there is something about them that's a little different from I think every generation on this panel. Like they just have a little something different. Marlo, what do you think about that? Like they're just waking up to a lot of things. They're not willing to do some of the things that maybe a millennial did. What are your thoughts on that?
It's just access to information, right? The things that they have had access to since they were 10, I only learned in my early 40s, right? So it's like if you know better, do better. I would expect people with as much access to information as they have to make better decisions. That's not to say wholesale they're making the absolute best decisions, but in terms of things that they can look at, right? You can look at tangible examples in your family of maybe you lost an uncle, or maybe you had an aunt who had to go to uh, not chemo. What is it called with the liver? I can't think.
Dialysis?
There you go. Maybe you had a family member that had to go to dialysis, and at 7 you didn't know why, but by 16 or 17 you do, right? I had one of my very best friends used to drink. We were all young, and then he had a friend die tragically in a car accident. Woke up the next day, I ain't drinking no more, right? Because the better information and how his friend died made him make a better choice. And I think that that's just where they are. I think that they're in a space where they can evaluate information much differently. We had to go to the library and check out 5 books to get the information that they could get in 3 clicks and swipes. So I think it's just different, and I expect them to make more grounded, information-based decisions because they do have the access.
Yeah, that's so good. I was talking to my little cousin who's like, at this point, he's 23. He was like, yeah, I mean, because, I invest this way. And, I tried options for a little bit, but if I had a large sum of money, I would do this, and that with it. I was like, I love that, right? The kids they're just different. When I was 23, I was like, like just, I don't know, So Joe, what do you think about that? Like, what are your thoughts? Aside from there being this huge access to all of this information, what else can you add to that?
Well, I'm somebody that works with teens, so I do know and see the impact of kind of how the world is weighing on them emotionally, but I also see the opposite, which a lot of teens now have language for what they're feeling. These younger generations, they can name the things, they can name the anxiety and the trauma, and they're using words like boundaries. That's not something I heard as a teenager. I don't know about y'all. So they have a way to kind of regulate emotionally a little better. So when you can name an experience, you don't have to numb it as much. And I do think that's playing an effect, and things that are things around emotional wellness are less stigmatized. So, and also they're more protective of their nervous systems. Like they don't, you know, they rest, but and they know how to deal with overstimulation a little better than a lot of us did in the past. So they've seen, I think one of the main things, if they've seen the long-term consequences. This generation has seen the long-term consequences up close,
Mm.
and they're like nah. I mean, look at what's going on in the street. That's the result of a generation who just kind of accepted some things, and this generation is not of that. They're not doing that. And like I said, they've seen the long term, they've seen it up close. So they saw the cost of coping and decided they didn't want to cope anymore. They wanted to deal. So I think that has a lot to do with kind of what we're seeing right now.
You know what you're saying is really good. I mean, it makes me think of my own daughter, right? I know Lauren is about to be 15, and she all of the words that you use, she'd be like, sometimes we'll be somewhere, she'd be like, I'm so overstimulated right now. Like I am so ready to go. Or, or I just had to draw my boundaries with my friend. Like I feel like she was this way or that way. Or I walk in and she's watching a podcast on whatever it is, and she just like Marlo said, she just has like you said, she has the language. Sometimes it's a little overdone, but there was a lot of sometimes it feels a little like girl, okay, right? But I think we had to cope with a lot more, right? Especially coming out of the 80s. I wish we would have had that language, but when I think about the things that I had to see, and drugs being dropped off in the black communities in the 80s, and us having to deal with a generation of parents who use drugs and didn't come home at night, and did you just had to, you really didn't have time to it was about survival. It was about like, okay, how do I get through this? Like, how do I do that without all the tools? And so it's just so interesting. I love what you said, Joe. um Deborah, what do you think?
Yes, they do have much more access to the internet where they have a lot more information. I could remember us having my age generation having to go get encyclopedias, go to the library. Um, like my children, they're not definitely doing what I was taught to do by my parents. You stay on your job 10, 20 years, you become um, reliable on your job. They're not doing that. You're not
Hmm.
treating them any kind of way on a job. Like Joe said, they know their worth. They know what they have to do, and they're going to do it. They're not going to do the old adage, do as
Hmm.
I say type of, situation. So, yeah, they're making their own paths in their own lanes. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Renee, I saw a video and a young lady was saying, like, I mean, we don't drink because this generation doesn't have health care, right? Like, we can't even afford to do that. So I wonder what do you think about that? Like, they can't afford to, they're saying. Wellness is the way.
I wouldn't agree with that because uh, as human beings will make room and do anything that they want, and if they want to do it, if that we if we find ways to cope with certain things, or if we want certain things, whatever you want, you can get it and you'll make it happen. But what triggered me, and I really wanted to respond to what Deborah was talking about in terms of how the kids are now. With even with my son, he's taught me how to be uh, more direct or apologizing.
Mhm.
Apologizing for whatever I may have said, some type of behavior towards him and stuff. And I had to, get out of my way from the old way of do as I say from what I was taught, listen to what I say, do what I say, but don't do how I act or whatever. It's just like you do this, but I'm going to do this. But
Mhm.
he's like, no, no, that, you have to come with me with and he used this word, is it called emotional IQ or emotional being
Mhm.
able to, he uses those types of words. And I'm like, okay. So
Mhm.
I think we are in a blessed, um, uh, because they're helping us become in a higher frequency of love and
Mhm.
understanding and compassion. And they're using their words to help us become that as well.
Mhm.
At first, when you had like with the parents in the 80s or the crack, you walked away and say, I'm not dealing with that. I'm just, I'm going to do my own life or whatever, instead of trying to reach out and say, what can we do to help you?
Mhm.
How can I massage this relationship? So that's
Yeah, I love that. I mean, it just made me think about, yeah, I think all of us have children in the chat that are around. Well, I think Deborah's children are a little older, but for the most part, I know that we all have teens, and I'm pointing at me, Marlo, and Joe, and then Renee. I don't know how old your baby is, but I think
23.
he's 23. I think your children are the same age. So, um it's so interesting, having conversations with these with the kids, because you're absolutely right. There's times I'll say something just like out of like what I learned, and then go back and be like, you know what? I'm sorry. I should have listened. Or you know how sometimes you're just like, I don't, they're trying to talk and you're like, I don't want to hear it, because people shut you down and shut you off. And then you go back and be like, what was you about to say? You want a sandwich? What was you going to say? Because I want to hear what, I had to apologize. And so I think that's so interesting. Let's go to the next video, y'all. I love it.
Alcohol industry is losing money. This is their response to losing money because they say the younger people aren't drinking. So now these corporate people are like, hey, we got to do something. We're losing money. How about we get some of our legislators to lower the drinking age where parents can come into a restaurant and drink with their children and it'd be totally legal. So now you walking out a restaurant, you and your 10-year-old drunk. This is horrible. This is horrible, Ohio. What are y'all doing? And it's not just, it won't just stop here. It's gonna spread all over. All this shit for some money. Call me.
So that's the answer, right? Like that's the answer. If you can't you beat them, you make them drink younger. I don't know, right? Like you introduce legislation. I can't even believe this is legislation, right? You introduce legislation that allows children to drink younger. So in Ohio, officially, I believe that that's actually passed. I gotta look that up, but I know that they were lobbying for that, for kids to be able to drink in underage as long as you have your parent present. Joe, what do you think about that?
I mean, I think people are gonna drink like who was that Renee that said that? I think they're gonna get to it anyway. They're gonna find it. So I don't know what kind of effect it is. I don't know what kind of effect legislation has on anything these days. I think that those people that are gonna drink, and there's a generation out here that's just kind of rejecting the idea. Um, so it's gonna be what it's gonna be. But I don't think that's gonna happen.
You don't think that's gonna happen? You don't think they're gonna allow for minors to drink with their parents? I hope not. I hope
I
not.
don't. Well, I'm in Texas, so that's already a thing. You can drink with your parents in Texas right now. So, I mean, I'm just saying, like that's not going to change much. They're already drinking. If they're going to drink with their parents, they're already doing it. You know what I
Mm,
mean? Like that legislation is not going to make an impact. I don't believe so.
okay, Marlo, what do you think about that? What do you think about what Joe's saying?
Well, I mean, I'm not gonna knock drinking in the presence of parents, because my parents allowed my brother to drink and there was another family that they were kind of in cahoots. They could drink at this house or this house and nowhere else, and to nobody's detriment. My brother's not an alcoholic, has never been that, like none of the negative aspects, right? So I think each family should be allowed to do what is best for the individual
Mm,
family. And if you allow it at social gatherings, my parents were of the opinion, I'd rather know he's doing it than him be sneaking around and get brought home drunk, right? Or get arrested or whatever the case may be because he's sneaking and drinking. So with that said, I think families should be able to make whatever decision they want. I think for me, the rub is the lenient parent that doesn't get permission, right? Because my parents were in cahoots with another family. And so that family knew, and our family knew that drinking was okay in one of those two carports, right?
mm,
But what happens when your friend has not given that permission, but that's the law of the land in your house? And I think it's a slippery slope, and it probably ain't gonna be around too long. But it is an Ohio revised code, so kudos to them. I mean, everybody do what they want to do with their kids. I guess whatever is best for y'all. I guess I don't know.
yeah. Renee, it reminds me of like how some parents will be like in the house smoking weed with their kids. Instead, it's like I would rather them, like you said,
Mhm.
Marlo, do it in my house than to do it outside and then somehow get caught. I don't know if I'm letting Lauren like blow weed at the house. Like I don't think I'm allowing that, but to each his own. What do you think about that? Like that's what it reminds me of. What do you
Excuse
say?
me. I think as a parent, we have to have some type of line drawn to be an example to our children for something. I can say from like just for my grandfather, he said, you can't have no boys in here. And I'm not going to take care of any more monkeys or any monkeys. You know, that's what he, I'm sorry, you know, that's the way they talk. Okay.
Yes. Oh, yeah,
But it's
no,
just,
we get it.
the fact is, you know, he was saying that he drew a line. Boys can't come in this house. And the only time they can come is if you're married. So I think you have to have some type of, you have to give them some type of guidance and
Yeah.
not just willy-nilly, okay, yeah, you're going to do it out there, just come in here and you can smoke it and let's just, you know, smoke all around the house. No, you can't do that. And they will, well, for, I just have to speak for, you know, at first, you know, oh, mom, but guess what? Now he's back having intelligent conversations with me, thanking me for some of the things that I did, you know, put down and in place. Because then he'll look at his friends and be like, wow, mom, you know, they are this, or, you know, running wild, and they're just, you know, yeah, because, you know, it starts at home. It starts at home about how you educate and talk to your children.
Yeah. I mean, we have to also just point out, the elephant in the room is capitalism, right? So I think that anytime that money is the draw for everything, it becomes like the god of America. Money is the most important thing. It's more important than humans. It's more important than everything in America, right? And so anytime and the way this law makes me think is just like, listen, numbers is down, we got to figure it out. So maybe there's a cute way that parents can now drink with their children, and just trying to massage something into being okay. That, I mean, I don't think it's okay for a minor to drink and get drunk with get drunk with their family members. I think that's weird, but to each his own. I'm gonna keep saying that, but I think it's just like a residual effect of capitalism. Like marketing makes anything look good. What do you think about that, Marlo? Marketing makes anything look good.
It's marketing, but it's also, if you got a lobby, this is why when people start talking about elected officials and their morality, I definitely mute my ears to that, because money is the driver of the political bus. And if a company says, hey man, we're losing money, they're going to find a way to bolster that tax base, right? If
Mm-hmm.
restaurants are saying we're losing money, if alcohol sellers are saying we're losing money, those politicians going to put their heads together. They can't figure out schools. They can't figure out how to get these potholes out the street. They can't figure out how to get your water straight. But if a capitalist industry is saying we need help, they are most certainly going to find a way to help them. And I think that that's more than anything what this is. When we think about Ohio, and just me being who I am and loving these politics the way I do, I could think of at least 4 moral laws that have been passed in Ohio where lawmakers said it was done for the sake of morality. And so underage drinking, by everything that I've learned in terms of morals, is something that we as a society at once said could wait, right? Oh, this could wait. This drinking could wait. Legally, whether
Mm-hmm.
you do it again in the privacy of your own home is different, but legally, for them to be able to go purchase, for them to order it in a restaurant, they've got to be this age. And I think it just goes to show you that there is no morality in these political situations, right? These
Mm-hmm.
people aren't moving from a moral high ground. They're moving from a elbow rubbing, when I leave the state senate, I'm gonna go work for the liquor company and be their voice tool, or their lobbyist, right? So I think that's all I'll say about that, is think about, there is no morality in politics, right? There's only what you agree with and what you don't agree with. None of these people are sitting on any kind of moral high horse.
Yeah, I agree with that. let's go to our last video and then we will hop off into this final thoughts. I really have enjoyed this conversation. I just think it's just really interesting to it's just really been interesting to get you all's perspective. We'll be right back.
As you're chilling out today, just know that Gallup did a poll that 54% of Americans are drinking and consuming alcohol in 2025. So the US is drinking less, and cultural connotations around drinking are getting worse and worse every single year. And it's interesting because as a millennial growing up, people chose their schools based on how much drinking they were doing, which has shifted. And I even went to a event where they had to stop the party because I guess the organizers weren't reaching their drinking minimum. So they had to tell people to go to the bar and buy drinks. They had to like just force people to go to the bar and buy drinks, which is crazy in 2025.
So at this point, they are not like, right, people are opting to just come to the club. If you are going to the club, you're going to the club to dance, if there's some live entertainment. But what we're hearing is bar owners are having issues with even getting people to drink once they get there. So yeah, I just think it's all interesting. Let's go to the comments really quick. I want to know, hey everybody, hey Black Lexicon, hey Anonymous. Let's see. What y'all been talking about in here? Um, Kids want to look good for camera. That's something else that I saw, that because people are online so much and doing all of these online things, drinking makes you puffy, it makes you age faster. There's all of these things. Anonymous says we need to legalize all vices except gambling. I guess if you legalize something and take it away, like take the power from it and just legalize it and make it a thing, it'll just be normalized and less people will do it. What do y'all think about that? Marlo, what do you think?
I think that it's been shown. I mean, obviously they report on, they'll go to the drug den in Toronto where there's like availability and they'll be like, look at these drug addicts. It's 42 of them. But for the most part, the populace is not doing drugs like that. So I think it is some truth to it if you destigmatize it. But also if you destigmatize it, then you got to worry about the government putting chemicals in it, so that the things might just get a little bit more dangerous.
Wonderful. Jay Keller says, very enlightening conversation. I wish I heard this before I picked up my first drink. Well, you're hearing it now, so don't drink no more. um, let's see what. All right. How do countries like France that have a huge wine culture have less teen pregnancy and vehicle accidents? Well, don't they walk everywhere? First of
They don't
all,
stigmatize sex either. Like the French are very sexually open. So asking why people that don't stigmatize sex don't have a lot of teen pregnancy, you answered your own question.
mm-hmm. And then wine is different. Listen, I don't think they're like fall over drunk either. I think what the
Like a
chemicals that
glass
are
of wine with dinner.
yeah,
That's their
yeah, yeah.
custom.
It's just, yeah, it's nice, a little, maybe a little buzz, but you're not sloppy laying on the floor. It's America throws chemical in everything. I think it tries to kill its people. It's the same with like cheeses, right? How you can go and I think one of the queens was saying like she just came from France not too long ago, and she's lactose intolerant, but she goes to France and has all these cheeses. She was like, I never got sick at all, but in America it makes me sick. So it's what's being put in those things. All right. So listen, this has been a great conversation, y'all. If you are just joining us, you missed the conversation, but you were watching Fly Nubian Money. Catch us on the replay. We are live every day, pretty much Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you want to receive notifications for when we go live, you can text the word Queens to 87948. That's 87948. So let's round this conversation out with our final thoughts. We're going to start with you, Joe. What I don't have a question for you. I just want you to give your
Mhm.
final thought on this, but definitely tell people where they can find you, and yeah, what are your final thoughts?
Well, you know me, I'm gonna make it about some therapy stuff. Well, I'm I'm a therapist, so I tend to talk about therapy and mental health stuff. Just like, if you're a cornball, you tend to talk about cornball shit. So I will say that, what I see is kind of a healing community. And I know that for a long time, alcohol was helping our community survive things that we were never really were supposed to carry. So it isn't about really shame and judgment for me. It's just about a new generation of Black people that are choosing clarity over coping. And I appreciate that, asking questions like, why am I drinking this? Or what am I really avoiding? And, or what actual benefits, do I get from this habit? And then people start answering those questions honestly, and then things change. Industry changes, spending changes, legacies change. So that's what it's about for me. It's just a moment that says, our community is hopefully not as broken as we once were, and we're becoming more kind of emotionally literate, and we're just doing better. And anytime healing becomes a priority, I'm with that, and I know that money's gonna follow that as well. And these liquor companies aren't just losing customers; they're losing they're they're losing coping mechanisms. So when the community starts healing and things, and it no longer needs, that thing, money will always be lost. And you can find me right there on my website, realuconsulting.com. All the things that I do are located on that page. So it's good to see y'all. Good and happy New Year.
Yes, good to see you. Good to see you. All right, Marlo, what are your final thoughts, and where can people find you?
I think my final thought is kudos to younger people for getting out of the grips of alcohol. Hopefully, they don't find themselves in things that are harder than alcohol. But I think most importantly is every generation is going to see a shift culturally, socially, and we're just in that shift moment. I think that we give a lot of credit to the young people for being, for claiming their personhood, but there were also lots of parents who were traumatized in the 80s and 90s, and when they had kids, they decided that they were going to do things differently. And I think that those children or young people are a byproduct of that. It's all good if we have less alcoholism in our community. I'm definitely not mad at that because that means domestic violence, that means random, sexual assaults. A lot of things are going to come down without alcohol impairment, including drunk driving, which you should not be doing. If you want to connect with me, my Instagram is on the screen, and also, you might catch my work in the wild. I'm a interviewer and host, and I love talking to people. That's it. That's why I come here. My favorite day is Monday.
All right, Renee, what are your final thoughts, and how can people get a hold of you?
My final thoughts are just want to say we are becoming more of a healing generation now and really accepting our power. That's what I believe. And that, you know, out there, keep embracing your power and who you are and not letting the society uh, do it for us. And so I'm seeing that more, and that's reflected in what's happening with the alcohol business. And so that's wonderful. So I'm Renee Williams. I am a clinical research patient advocacy advocate strategist. You can tap into equitrials.com, which is a free resource on resource information that could probably help you, your family. And then psychosync.com is dealing with Black women and maternity, I'm sorry, dealing with the uh, rates of losing their babies, so just tap into that, check it out, see how we can help our community.
Love that. Make sure you check Marlo out, Renee, and Joe. Um, and my final thought is, I'm actually really proud to see this. Not only for us in the United States, but really for the Black community. Like Marlo was saying earlier, um, as much flack as we catch for what happened in the 80s, you were absolutely right when you said that we decided to be a different generation, and I love that for us. But also, we also are a generation that's open to healing. We are right here in the middle where we are, I think, doing it better and changing our community for the future. More people are investing, more people are sharing their stories and their voices. We're learning a lot faster. About the harms of what these things are doing to our bodies. And that goes for food, that goes for everything like health and wellness. Mental health has really become, I think, a staple for a lot of people in the Black community. We're working out instead of drinking. We're, just finding better uses for our time. We're studying. It's good. We're good. We're doing good. So I really appreciate that. I really appreciate that. Appreciate that for us and our children, and our children's children are going to be even better. So I love that for us. My name is Tiara Williams. I'm also known as Miss Black Hollywood. You can find me on the internet at Miss Black Hollywood. I have not launched our program yet, but I am taking on 5 new clients for podcast production. So if you are interested in sharing your voice, if you got some things to say and you need a way to learn to storytell and to say those things in a proper way, go to missblackhollywood.net. That's MSBLACK Hollywood.net, and schedule a consultation so I can hear your idea, see how we can help you put that thing together and use your voice this new year. All right, y'all. This has been amazing. Deborah left, but I'm pretty sure she says this is her final thought. Health is wealth in the Black community. That's what Deborah said. So we'll take that. Health is wealth in the Black community. Listen, we are so grateful that you decided to join us today. To our regulars, Anonymous, Black Lexicon, Double A, Deborah will win. Just pretty much anybody that watches our show every single day that is here engaging. We so appreciate that. If you love us and you love what we do here, make sure that you click the like button and subscribe. And then also share it with a friend. Share it with a friend. Let them know we are here every single day, Monday. Well, not every single day, Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Again, if you want to receive notifications from when we go live, text the word Queens to 87948. And yeah, we want you to have a good day. Enjoy the rest of your week if we don't see you for the rest of the week. But we'll be here tomorrow. So you come back tomorrow. Yeah? All right. We'll see you soon. We appreciate